Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. And Carrie, you know, a very interesting conversation with Trevor Johnson and Mira Rampersad just now with regard to trading. The audio, you know, sometimes when data isn't strong enough, it sort of breaks up because I did have another question. One of the questions that I have for labor unions, for trade unions, is I do understand the rights, the obligation of trade unions to represent the rights of workers to their organization. I get that. But I wanted to find out about, you know, what about the obligation of unions to educate their workers about their duty to perform at the job? You know, because it's fair play. To me, it's fair play. So you give of your services, but you will expect, you know, the correct work environment and all of that.
I love that question because not many people may think of it that way, you know, because they think about the unions fighting for the workers anyway. The workers being quote unquote oppressed or kept down by the organization, and the union is fighting for them. But yeah, what is the workers' obligation to the job themselves?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the things that they should fulfill, and not only in times of grievances, you know, per union.
Yeah, because because you know it's an exchange, it's a contract between the organization and the employee. So it's not just about the organization putting out, but it's also about the employee being productive.
That's right.
And that's the only way that the economic wheel will work. But there must be fairness on both sides. Obviously, you know, you want proper work, and that's what happened. That's what the whole 1937 rights was about. You know, proper working conditions, fair pay. You know, and now even conditions for persons who are pregnant and you know, in the workplace, being able to nurse the baby and express, you know, and so on,
and the gender gap as well.
Yes, and so many other rights in the workplace. I get all of that, but I do think there is an obligation. This is me personally, that the unions have to educate their workers as well. That, you know, when you go into the workplace, you need to be giving of your best.
And, you know, like when you applied for that job, whenever it was, you know, there would have been, you know, your list of duties that you know you're supposed to perform. You're supposed to perform that well because you know you're working for an organization and you're getting a paycheck. And, you know, you have a list of duties that you have to perform.
Especially if you're getting a paycheck during these times, right? Yes. All right, so we could be on our soapbox, but it's also a World Sickle Cell Day. And Carrie, I know you have a conversation that you'll be going to right now with Farisha Mohammed of the Family Service Social Workers.
Yes, that's
Ministry.
right. I'm going to be chatting with Farisha Mohammed, and she's a Family Service Social Worker in the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services. So good morning, Farisha.
Good morning.
And welcome to the program. It's great having you. So let's speak a little bit about the rationale behind the upcoming series.
Okay, so basically this started as a result of our observance of International Day of Families, which it is you know, something that has been implemented by the UN, and this day is observed every year on the 15th of May. And the highlight of this is to remember that the family plays a crucial role in society and cultures on what we may have. The focus is basically to respond to the turbulent times in which many families are facing with rapid changes that happened throughout this year. We face COVID-19, and this is what sparked this series that we started with TTT, Living with COVID.
That's right. And, you know, let's underline what's the importance to have this series, that, you know, to have it on a platform that, you know, can reach so many people. And, you know, what does the series, what topic does the series really touch on and want to impart to the viewers and those who would consume it?
At the National Family Services Division, we practice a lot of intervention with clients who are experiencing psychosocial issues. And we know as a result of the COVID-19, there are many persons who are distressed. There are a lot of fluctuating feelings and emotions that persons are experiencing at this time.
Right.
And due to that, we usually have a yearly radio program that is entitled It's Family Time, Let's Talk. Because of the limitations that COVID has placed on us as a division and by the ministry, by extension, we will prompted to actually have a television series to go in alignment with that radio program so that we would be able to meet the general public, give them information about ways in which they can cope, things that they can do, and how the pandemic may affect families in particular at varying levels, so that we could find solutions to those problems that are faced.
Now, there's a phrase, families are the bedrock of society. Tell us the emphasis of that phrase. What does it really mean?
What that really means is that, families, without a family, there is no society. Families, they are who makes up this society. And by extension, we as members of families, we are the most essential part of society. So each family, if a family isn't stable, then our society won't be stable. So being the bedrock of society, it just says that as families, we are what makes up society, and our society is as strong as our family.
Now, use that word bedrock, and bedrock speaks to, to be a metaphor for foundation, the basis of something. And, in a time of a pandemic, now we have seen that bedrock shaken. What type of support, and what message is put out by your ministry, when it comes to the effect of COVID pandemic on the family, which is the bedrock of society?
So what we have done is that because we were limited, as I said, in practice, where we would have been able to perform micro practice, whereas one-on-one with our clients, at one time we were limited in how we were disseminating information to them, assisting them with coping and all of that. Right. So we had to go to a macro level where we went into communities via the televised program as well as the radio program, so via media. So this is where we had to revamp how we operated as a ministry, as the ministry's division, and the way in which we would have given that information and that support to our clients. We now had to utilize other strategies in which we can still give that information to them, still let them know that there is support and all of that. So addition to the televised and radio programming, we also did via telephone counseling and all of that. The ministry set up a hotline where persons would have been calling in to get that type of psychosocial support that they would have required according to their need.
Now, another installment is coming up this Sunday. What can we expect?
Yes, so this Sunday it's the final edition of what we started 2 weeks ago, and this week we are focusing on abuse because a lot of persons would have encountered abuse. We had a lot of calls where there was an increase in domestic violence, increase in abuse of the elderly and children. So this week we are trying to focus more on that. We place emphasis on it. Who do you call? What do you do? How do you identify signs of being abused? And all of those things. So this week we have 3 specialists who would be on panel who would be giving that information as to the different types of abuse, signs, warning signs, what can you do if you encounter that, or if you know somebody who may have encountered any form of abuse.
Would you be one of the persons who, individuals who call and communicate with on the phone?
Sorry, could you repeat?
Would you be one of the persons, when persons call in to the series, would you be one of the people that, are giving them advice and counsel on the phone?
Yes, I am. I will be a part of this week's.
All right.
So, I will be a part of this week's panel. Additional, I am also one of the persons whose telephone is directly connected to the hotlines, as well as I hold 2 offices within the division. So yes, the answer to that question is yes, I will be one of the persons answering those questions.
Wonderful. That leads me to my next part, and I want to keep it a little brief because we're very close to the news hour. But say if I were to call into that program and I said, Farisha, I live in a neighborhood, and in my neighbor's house I constantly hear quarreling. One day I heard quarreling, and then I noticed that there was a physical altercation between the family members. What would you advise me to do?
Okay, so one of the things that we do, confidentiality is very strict. We can't place enough emphasis on being confidential in situations like that. So a lot of times, just to avoid further conflicts, like a neighbor being, targeted because he or she made a report, what we do is we try to keep it, as confidential as possible, so that caller will remain anonymous.
Right.
We take as much information as possible as we can, and first we do an investigation, because everything we treat as an allegation until confirmation is given, where we have concrete evidence that something is happening. Because we all have disagreements in homes. At times it becomes loud in some instances, and we can't say that every conflict is a form of abuse. So what we have to do is first we have to get an insight of what is happening before we can make the adequate intervention.
So if I were to say, Faricia, I witness a physical assault, between the family members through the window or whatever, would the ministry get the police involved in a situation like that?
Yes, we will, but we do investigations first before we get the police involved. So we may do a visit to the home. We may call if we have a telephone number and ask, make sure that there isn't any severe cases of violence that is going on in the home. And sometimes we will go with the police, dependent on the situation, or we may go alone just to ensure the persons who we are dealing with that, we're not there to make trouble, but we're there to help.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Faricia Mohammed, for this information. And again, people can remember to tune in on Sunday. That Faricia Mohammed is the Family Service Social Worker, Ministry of Social Development and Family Services. We now take a break to the top of the hour for the news at 7, and we'll be back after that.